Matt Murdock was too young to understand the dangerous philosophy his mentor was teaching him. He was just a kid when he lost his sight, and Stick swooped in as what first seemed to be a savior. This is Daredevil, Season 1, Episode 7. Stick is a blind fighter who has been hardened through his own traumatic experiences. He's cruel because life is cruel to him, but one thing is clear: he genuinely believes that cruel methods will prepare Matt to survive and thrive. All right, guys, I'd like to get your reactions and your first impressions on Stick. I actually used AI to cross-reference his personality against personality disorders from clinical psychology. So that'll be fun. But before I reveal what his is, what are your first impressions?
Well, I figured he was a bit of a sociopath. He has no feeling towards others, no sympathy towards others, which is exactly what a sociopath is. But at the same time, I kind of felt like the way he was tutoring Matt was the necessary way to go. If Matt's going to be this protector and he's going to be this hero, then he's going to have to be tough. And I don't know how I see this through. You guys might see this a different way. They do have a little bit of a headbutting and a confrontation. And we'll get into that later about Black Sky.
Yeah.
So first off, Scott Glenn, the actor, he's awesome. I've loved him ever since I remember seeing him first, I think, in Backdraft back in the day. And that was in the 90s. So he's been acting, and he was acting before that too. So dude's been around, great actor. However, I could have done without this episode personally, just because I've seen this episode before. There's plenty of movies and TV shows going all the way back to Kung Fu back in the day, where you have the overbearing master that beats the crap out of the person until that one day when it's like, oh, you got me. And now you're ready to go. And, the trainee, becomes powerful, and then they're mad at their mentor, and the mentor's like, well, I did it for you because I love you. And it's just, I've seen that before, and they portrayed it fine. The episode was fun. I enjoyed it, but it's a story that has been told 200 times since I've been alive.
Batman has Lady Shiva. Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good episode, and you need an origin story. You need to figure out how he became the way he did. I understand why they did it. It's just one of those things where it's a story that's been told forever.
I agree that it's been told a lot. I thought the way they did it was very well. Now, the first time I watched this episode, 10 years ago when the show came out, I felt like you. But this time when I watched it, I don't know why, but I thought wow, this is well done. Every line, even though it's a story they've told a lot, every line was pretty gold. I mean, my favorite part is one of them when Matt Murdock's sitting there on the bench as a kid with Stick, and they see a girl in the park. He goes, "What's wrong with her? Is she sick?" And Stick goes, "Worse. She's in love." That is very revealing of Stick's cynical view of the world. And what I thought was interesting is he is actually similar to Fisk. They both have this view that the ends justify the means. Bad methods can save the world, and it's okay as long as you get the result. The difference is Stick rejects emotional connection because he's not comfortable with it. We don't know why. We don't really know his past. But Fisk, on the other hand, is dying for emotional connection and just struggles to maintain it because of his own problems. So I thought it was kind of cool, and I'm glad that they didn't make Stick the villain of the whole season, because then it really would have been that cliche of I was your master, I loved you, now I fight you,
Yeah, that would have been Batman Begins. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about that, him with his emotional attachments, how he's completely turned it off. Because when Matt gave him the little bracelet made out of an ice cream cone, that's immediately right there. He says, okay, I can't teach you because obviously you're not focusing the way I need you to focus. You're still looking for attention, and you think that this is a relationship that we have, and it's not. So I can't teach you anymore. Which I thought was kind of harsh, but again, I'll get into it later. Yeah.
All right, so I had AI analyze this episode and everything that Stick said in the episode and try to profile him And basically what it said from a clinical psychology perspective is he has antisocial tendencies. Now, there's a bunch of other layers to it. He's not a perfect match because true antisocial people don't care about anyone, right? But he is protective of Matt, so that there is like a little tiny piece of a heart inside of Stick. He's not totally cold. But some trauma that we don't know about from his past has shaped him. So some of the things he deals with are narcissism. He's very dismissive when responding to Matt's emotional needs. He projects, telling Matt that he shouldn't have emotional vulnerability. He shouldn't show his emotions. And it seems to be because he is uncomfortable with attachments. Hypervigilance, I thought this was interesting. It's where you are constantly ready for combat or arguments, which comes from going through some kind of traumatic childhood. But he is so ready for combat that sometimes you fight things, you become combative in situations where it doesn't call for that. Definitely an avoidant attachment style, as you can tell. He's like, hey, you got to cut things off with your girlfriend. You got to quit your job. You got to get out of this comfy apartment. And I immediately thought, wait, so you have to be homeless? And he says something like, men like us don't get these kind of luxuries. Now, I see the result that Stick is going for. You know, this episode seems to be about like two paths to the same result, right? So Stick could save the world but be unhappy and have no attachments. Or we've got Daredevil trying to do this through a different route, and it does put people at risk. But I don't know, just talk about their relationship, and do you see kind of these two different roads being contrasted in this episode?
Yeah, I think in Styx's eyes, Matt's just not as tough as he needs to be because he won't cross that line. He asks, how many people have you killed? Oh, he still will not cross that line, huh? And Matt's like, no, that's not the way I do things. And Styx is pretty adamant that if you are going to be successful in your mission and you're going to be the protector that you need to be, occasionally you might have to cross that line. And I think that's like that with a lot of things in actual life. Sometimes you have to do something that you're not comfortable with doing. So I think that's where he's trying to get Matt to that point, is to realize that there's going to come a day where you're going to have to do it. So, you know.
And there is a reality that you put yourself at risk if you say you're never going to kill. I mean, I'm not going to kill anyone, just clarifying. But in Matt's situation, like he could think that he put somebody down and then they shoot him in the back, you know?
Right.
So it is an interesting conundrum that if that's the right way to go, it is the harder road.
It has a very Empire Strikes Back feel to it because he meets this trainer and he can't train him like he normally does. He would other people because this kid has gotten too old. And the reason I say that is because he can't cross that line because he had so many years with his dad, who was such a positive influence. You know, no matter what he went through, his dad was always, you know, come on, buddy, we can do this. Come on, champ, you know, everything like that. So he's got, you know, he grew up in his younger years having that frame of reference, having that's the way he lives, you know.
Father figure.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually, you know, Styx actually said that at one point, you know, you left me. And he's like, you were looking for a father and I couldn't, you know, he wasn't going to be the father. You know, I'm here to make you a serious assassin, killer, beat everyone up type of guy. And he was already too far along to turn into a killer. He's a bad man. He can kick some butt, but he's not a killer.
Yeah, Stick was saying he was training him for a war. I wondered how he got into that war in the first place. I don't think we ever find out, do we?
I don't believe so because it has something to do with the hand. And I know the hand kind of, it jumps different heroes and stuff like that. So I've heard of the hand before. But if I remember correctly, I don't think they really go into it that much.
Well, he comes back and the hand comes back as the main villain in the Defenders series. So
okay.
This
gotcha.
storyline
I didn't watch the Defenders. So yeah, that's where he was that's where he failed. That's where Styx failed, was he couldn't overtake what he learned, what Charlie learned from his father.
Yeah.
So
I would say
Matt, not Charlie. Charlie's the actor.
I'm looking at that as a good thing because I feel like
that's absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Stick's manipulating, which we'll get to, but I don't see Stick as thriving. He is accomplishing his mission, but I don't know that he's happy necessarily. But I don't know that happiness is that important to Stick. I was trying to figure out what was it that prevented Matt from becoming like Stick. And maybe it was just that Stick walked away from the situation. But I did wonder, we talked about the father's influence, but when Matt was exposed to faith, because that has been a guiding force in his battles, And as far as I can tell, it comes from his father. That's something that was instilled in him. And maybe that guided him from the point where he split with Stick, because he didn't end up becoming like Stick. And I feel like the sense of morality that he has comes from his faith and compassion.
He grew up in an orphanage full of nuns, too.
Oh, yeah.
So that probably played into it a little bit. But mostly from what I think Doug said, with him not losing his eyesight till he was 10. So he got to see things and enjoy things, and he knows things. He knows what colors look like. And, he had some happy times. Meanwhile, Styx was born blind. So he didn't get all that experience.
And by the age of 10, if you grow up in religion, it's pretty strong. You're still a kid, you're still learning things, you're still doing stupid things, but you know who God is. You know the person you're worshiping, you know that is good. And I need to aspire to that if I can. So yeah, growing up in an orphanage in the Catholic Church, I know there's plenty of stories out there. People,
I didn't take because the nuns were too.
Well, there's a lot of people who it took.
Yeah.
My dad's one of them. So
Stick asks for Matt's help in stopping a weapon from coming to the city. So Matt goes along just to find out that Stick didn't exactly tell the truth.
So this weapon, Black Sky, turns out to be a 10-year-old boy in a loincloth shackled to a container. Is he an ultimate weapon? Who cares? He's dead. That's all we know.
Are you surprised that we didn't get to see what Black Sky could do before
to be honest with you, I was. When they opened it up and there's this boy and you're thinking, this is the big threat is this boy, and the big fight, and he goes away and you're thinking, okay, he'll show up later. No, I put an arrow in his heart. He's dead. Never going to see him again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a little bit, I don't know if you guys watched The Boys or not, but it had that kind of vibe where, they open the door and there's just this kid sitting there and it's like, oh, he's going to be able to, tear people apart with his mind, or with Black Sky, he's going to be able to bring storm. Mine just started racing what this kid could do. Because in The Boys, there's been a handful of times where it's like, oh, we got to stop this thing. What's happening? And then this little girl walks out. It's like, oh, hi. And then her mouth opens to 10 feet wide and eats somebody. So, I was just waiting for something. It's like, because Stick actually says he's more dangerous than you think, or, that is a weapon or something like that. And then, nope, don't get to find out anything.
Oh,
Nothing.
Yeah. So it's funny when you think about it that they never showed us what this
They
weapon
didn't even
can
tell
do.
you.
I think the point, though, was that, like, oh, wow, Stick is willing to go to some pretty disturbing links. This is a kid that they should be trying to save at this point, right? Like, he's obviously probably been brainwashed. They need to get him help, but Stick doesn't even think about that. He just thinks that this kid is probably beyond the point to be saved.
Well, we'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the point where you find out, oh, Stick is fairly heartless.
Well, he's in
when it
that
comes to Matt.
mindset, he is at war.
Yes.
There may not be countries at war and stuff like that, but he is in the middle of a war. And, it's probably the same thing snipers think of when they're perched up there, and then, they're looking, and God, they're 3 12-year-old kids walking towards our troops with AK-47s. And it's like, what do I do? They have to make that awful decision to do something that evil. That's what his part of the war is supposed to do. So I don't think he has any remorse when it came to that. Well, he obviously didn't, because he almost joked about it afterwards.
No,
would this be a war
job.
crime situation, though? Is this kind of like a Vietnam metaphor where, there were some generals that did some things that got them in court over war crimes, right? Is this the kind of thing that if this were a government endorsed war, Stick would have been on the hook for?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
It all comes down to whoever's in charge. What do they want to do?
I guess if you're taking out a threat, then that's one thing. If it was just kill the kid, that's another thing. But this allows me to kind of talk about the whole Black Sky incident between those two. Because you had asked earlier, it seems like he got stronger without having Sticks around to help out.
Yes.
But maybe he just didn't get strong enough. Because during that fight scene, I was actually kind of on the fence on who do I want to win this fight? Like, do I want Matt to win this fight? Or do I want him to get his butt kicked just once? So maybe he realizes I need to be tougher. I need to be stronger. Because I'm kind of in a way, and I'm not a sociopath like Styx is, but I see where Styx is coming from, where you're going up against, Fisk, who is willing to do everything that he has to do to win this war. And sometimes you just going in and beating up a dude isn't going to be enough, that you're going to have to possibly cross that line again. And when that time comes, are you going to be able to do it? And if you're at that point now where you're having sympathy for everybody, you're not going to be able to do it, and you're going to lose. So in a way, I was kind of on Stick's side on that side. I was kind of hoping that he'd win that fight and knock, and just to say, look, dude, you're going to have to be tougher.
See, I'm rooting for Matt to be able to do this without losing his humanity, right? So right. I think we all want our heroes to not lose themselves. So I'm trying to figure out, can he be tougher? It's just kind of like in sports, like, those angry teams that will go to dirty extremes. You can win a lot of games that way, right? Can you win the championship without doing something like that? I don't know. We all hope our teams can, but I don't know.
But I think this goes along, and Doug actually said something that I was thinking too when he talked about, like a military sniper having to make a decision. I'm sure he's not up there saying like, oh, cannot wait to shoot somebody today. But he knows that's part of the job, that he might have to. And if he hesitates and he doesn't do it, then all these other lives could be hurt. And if you think about New York City, and that section of Hell's Kitchen, I'm not sure exactly how many people live there, but I'm sure it's probably close to 1 million. If he's not good enough to take out a threat, then a whole bunch of other people could get hurt. So if you want to protect the city, you might have to do something that you're not comfortable doing.
We didn't talk about Karen or Foggy or Ben too much. They were in the episode. They did piece together a thing. The three of them are now working together to try to piece together who's the big bad in this. They weren't very integral to this episode.
At the end of the episode, we find out Stick didn't fully embrace the philosophy he taught. We find out that he did care about Matt because after a huge fight between the two, Stick drops the bracelet that Matt gave him years ago that caused Stick to leave. He kept it this whole time. I just want to ask you guys real quick, do you think that Stick dropped the bracelet on purpose or on accident?
I say he didn't on accident. That was my feeling.
I'm an on-purpose kind of guy. He mentioned, do you have any friends? And Matt said, I've got 2. And he's like, drop them. And Matt said he wasn't going to do it. And I think he saw the weakness, what he portrays as weakness in Matt by saying he's not giving up his friends, and then realized, well, with this bracelet, I'm holding on to him. He's obviously not where I need him. I need to live with exactly what I say. So I think he just, at that last moment, peeled it off and dropped it. So Matt could find it and say, see, I'm willing to do it. You need to as well.
And Doug makes a very good argument, and I think I may have just changed my mind.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm not sure, because I wonder if the show was trying to say that, like, hey, even Stick knows that his philosophy isn't the most healthy way to do this. And maybe Matt's way, he needs to get tougher, but maybe Matt's way will triumph, or we want to see good win. But I don't know. I mean, maybe Stick thought, oh, I should have beat Matt here, or I lost this fight with Matt, and it was my own weakness, my unwillingness to hurt him, to really hurt him, that caused me to lose. So I'm going to leave this here to tell Matt that I'm cutting him off. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we
that's
may never
another
know.
good point too.
Another good point. I mean, I thought he had dropped it on accident and that he was carrying it around and hoping that Matt would never know. But then that just kind of makes him a bit of a hypocrite, that you're telling him to ditch your friends, and yet you still, in a way, have that soft spot for him. But so that's why I was thinking like he was, I don't know. I thought it probably just fell out during a fight, but I don't know.
See, that's why I think the show might have been telling us, hey, don't be like Stick, be like Matt. because Stick is revealed as a hypocrite. He knows this is not a happy way to live.
Yeah.
We may never know the answer, but we'll keep analyzing the series in our next video.